And now, the best 60-ish seconds of your week. You'll be seeing this Saturday morning, but we're taping it on the first day of summer. For me, a bittersweet day because it means that the best time of the year is really, truly here, but it also means that now the days are getting shorter, and that causes me great angst. Anyway, it's also NBA draft day, so I'll be sitting close by the phone as I have for the past years. And I'm guessing it won't ring again this year. Finally, somebody told me that it's national, in fact, worldwide selfie day. Who the heck makes this stuff up anyway? We're not doing them here. We'll chat about some other things, most notably immigration and the fact that President Trump's executive order got rid of a badly misguided policy, the so-called zero tolerance policy, which separated children from their parents, etc. The Democrats have jumped all over this, trying to gain political advantage, which unfortunately has marked the immigration issue for too long and for so long. Because despite the fact that there were terrible visuals associated with this, separating children from their parents, they existed during the Obama administration as well, and somehow there wasn't the national hue and cry over that situation when it existed, despite the fact that the ACLU and a lot of other leftist center groups sued the Obama administration over policies very, very close to what was going on recently. The point being that we need comprehensive immigration reform. These problems have been percolating for 30 years. Congress has refused to address them. It's time that they do it, and maybe now the opportunity actually exists for that to happen. But meanwhile, look what goes on in the language of our culture. We have a state representative here in Pennsylvania giving the Vice President of the United States the finger. We've got an intern in Washington cursing out the president in the hall. That kind of stuff debases the discussion completely. And once the shock value of those little theatrics are past, it somehow becomes more commonplace and more culturally acceptable. And it really should not be. I'll get off my soapbox now and say this, that while both sides are somehow trying to jockey for position in an election year for leverage over that issue, the immigration dust-up of the last few days has obscured some other very important news, most notably the Inspector General's report and Inspector General Horowitz's testimony before Congress this week. In the aftermath of the Inspector General's testimony before Congress came Peter Strzok being led away from the building, and with him a boatload of problems. Whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, or anything else, any thinking American ought to be revulsed by what was apparently going on at the FBI leading up to the 2016 elections. The whole notion that we'll push the Hillary Clinton matter aside, we'll focus on Donald Trump, we won't allow him to win this election, etc., is nauseating. The integrity of the FBI needs to be restored. The confidence of the American people in that great institution needs to be restored. And we need to keep politics out of the criminal justice system. They simply don't mix. And there is a real challenge before us because the Inspector General's report is pretty damning on a lot of different levels. And I suspect there's more yet to come. Meanwhile, here in Pennsylvania, a little bit of happy news. A budget passed on time that apparently will get the governor's signature. That would be for the first time. He hasn't signed one yet. And one of the main reasons that it got passed so early was revenue is coming into the Commonwealth at a much greater rate than it was previously. Why is that? Largely because of the tax cuts of the recent Trump administration tax reform package. A rising tide does in fact lift all boats, and you can get additional revenue by decreasing tax rates, a phenomenon which is working for America right now because economic growth is the key to prosperity, the two most important words in the domestic policy lexicon. Finally, the summer reading list continues. I've promised an extensive one, and it's coming. Stay tuned. But for now, just one. Politics as a Noble Calling, the memoirs of F. Clifton White. And the title itself, given what's going on right now, says an awful lot. But Cliff White was the architect of some great campaigns. First, the Goldwater campaign of 1964, where the Arizona senator, conservative from the West, took the nomination away from the Eastern establishment Republicans in what was a really big upset. And then Cliff White ran a third-party candidacy for the U.S. Senate in New York State. Think about that, a third-party candidate winning a U.S. Senate seat in New York State, again put together by Cliff White, who then went on to be a major force in the Reagan campaign, both in 1976 and in 1980. The back of the book is a glowing testimony to Cliff White from Ronald Reagan himself. The introduction by David Broder, the sage and the dean of Washington political reporters. It's worth a read. And as I said, the title itself is worth having. So for now, that is the best 60-ish seconds of your week.